Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a literal masterpiece of DIY engineering. Forget about struggling to put together flat-pack furniture. We're going to break down how 5 incredibly determined sisters looked at a barren, drought-stricken mountain and decided to physically transform it into a luxurious waterfall oasis. It's an unbelievable story of brute force meeting brilliant landscaping, and it is just absolutely inspiring.
So picture this extreme scenario for a second. The summer heat is so unbearable that sweat is just pouring off you. You head down to the local river, hoping for a little relief, only to find nothing. The riverbed is completely dead. It's just cracked dirt, deep fissures, and dry mud. When your only water source completely vanishes like that, survival actually requires a pretty audacious plan.
To solve this crisis, these sisters didn't just sit around waiting for the rain to eventually return. They decided to bypass that dead river entirely. See, they knew there was water trapped deep inside the massive mountain looming right above them. So they made the incredibly bold decision to climb up there and physically break the mountain open to release that hidden reserve. It's the ultimate contrast, really, turning cracked, dry earth into a massive flowing mountain waterfall just through sheer willpower.
Let's move into Section 1, Breaking the Mountain Open, the grueling physical excavation. As you might guess, breaking open a solid mountain is exactly as exhausting as it sounds. Before they could even strike the rock, they faced a literal wall of nature. Step 1 meant hacking through incredibly dense, wild bushes just to clear a path and expose the rock face. Step 2 was purely logistical, driving heavy pegs deep into the solid stone to set up a secure rope system. And why did they need that? Well, because of Step 3. You can't exactly carry heavy iron crowbars and hammers up a sheer cliff with your bare hands. They had to use those ropes to painstakingly haul all their heavy tools up the mountain.
Now, what's really fascinating here is the targeted, relentless brute force they had to use. They weren't just hacking away randomly. They found a single, specific main fissure where the water was known to be trapped. As they noted during the dig, only when that specific crack deepened would the mountain's chest literally burst open. Talk about a vivid image. They had to repeatedly strike this exact weak point simultaneously with heavy iron crowbars, inch by inch, slowly weakening that solid stone.
And finally, after a truly agonizing amount of effort, sweat, and muscle fatigue, it paid off. With one massive, heavy blow, they detached a huge chunk of rock from the cliff face. The exact second that thin layer of retaining stone shattered, the water hidden inside the mountain just erupted. It created this massive, instant torrent right before their eyes.
Which brings us to Section 2, Engineering the Waterfall Basin, Controlling the Chaotic Flow. Here's the catch, though. Simply releasing the water wasn't quite enough, because initially the flow was completely chaotic. They realized pretty quickly that the falling water's immense pressure was going to destroy the ground below, wash away all the soil, and basically ruin the entire area. So they stepped up and engineered a pressure control basin. This wasn't just some puddle in the ground. It was a deep, reinforced, circular pool made with heavy boulders and incredibly thick cement. It was specifically designed to absorb the massive kinetic energy of all that water dropping from the cliff.
To perfectly control this flow, they knocked out 3 really precise steps. First, they went back up the cliff and carved a straight, vertical channel. This forced the water to fall in a concentrated stream instead of splashing randomly everywhere. Second, they built that heavy cement basin directly at the impact zone. And third, they rapidly packed the surrounding riverbanks with heavy stones. That last step was absolutely crucial to stop the sudden rush of water from eroding the dry soil and turning their brand new pool into a giant muddy swamp.
What's truly brilliant about this is their intuitive grasp of water dynamics. They didn't just mix up a standard batch of mortar. No, they mixed the cement exceptionally thick and pressed it super tightly between heavy boulders. The ultimate goal, which they pulled off perfectly, by the way, was to create basin walls that were actually stronger than natural solid rock. They had to be, to withstand the relentless, pounding pressure of a brand new permanent waterfall.
All right, on to Section 3, Crafting the Oasis Amenities, from survival to luxury.
So with the water crisis officially averted, they shifted their focus completely toward luxury. And the level of detail in their landscaping is just fantastic. They built an iron-strong wooden bridge right over the flowing river just so they could stand there and feel the cool mist. To keep the whole area pristine, they laid down flat stone pathways, because nobody wants mud at their luxury resort, right? They built a rock-solid stone bench right in front of the waterfall to relax on, and, showing some pretty incredible foresight, they planted specific greenery around the edges whose roots would naturally bind the soil together to prevent any future erosion.
To wrap up the whole shebang and make it perfectly safe and welcoming, they literally hand-carved wide, flat stone stairs descending directly into the deep water of the basin. Finally, they drove these heavy wooden pillars deep into the ground to build a beautiful, grand entry gate. They had officially turned a barren rock face into a private 5-star resort. And finally, Section 4, the ultimate pool party, celebrating an impossible victory.
You know that feeling when a massive project finally comes together? Well, after hours of agonizing labor, it was finally time for them to celebrate. Standing directly under that heavy, freezing waterfall they had just brought to life provided this incredible sensory payoff. After a full day of sweating and swinging heavy crowbars in extreme heat, the pounding water felt, in their very own words, like getting a natural massage from nature itself. The sheer joy of enjoying a paradise you built with your own 2 hands is just unmatched.
But, as you might know, mountain weather is pretty fickle. By late afternoon, they were splashing and swimming in their new basin, having the time of their lives. But as soon as the sun started to set, that mountain water turned absolutely freezing. So they seamlessly transitioned to one final brilliant engineering hack, a custom-built stone fire pit. They dug a pit, lined it with river stones, and built a roaring fire to warm up and dry their clothes, turning what could have been a chilly situation into a perfectly cozy evening. Stepping back and looking at this whole transformation is just staggering. Through pure grit, teamwork, and genuinely smart landscaping, these sisters prove that you can transform the most desolate, dry, cracked landscape imaginable into a literal hand-engineered paradise. They flat out refused to accept the drought. They simply engineered their way out of it. Which brings us to the end of today's explainer. But before we go, I want to leave you with this one thought to ponder. If 5 determined people can literally conquer a mountain with nothing but ropes, crowbars, and cement to build a luxury oasis, what obstacles are you facing right now? What totally impossible project could you break through and engineer in your own life today? Something to think about. Until next time, keep building and keep learning.